pasta, pesto pasta, pesto pasta, pesto pasta, pasta pesto, pasta pesto. Oh, internet family, I'm starving and I don't have much time to film a video. Some of you who follow me on social media will already know that HBO made me an official ambassador for Game of Thrones, and some of you will also know that I am a super fan. So they approached me based on that. Like, even from my first YouTube video, I am like, just look,
Jon Snow, and it's King in the North, Robb Stark.
Obsessed isn't quite the word. I think this video will be interesting to people who don't get Game of Thrones and who are wondering why the whole world and the whole internet is obsessed and is mourning the show currently because season 7 is just finished. We have a long wait to season 8. I want to talk about why I love the show, and no, it's not just because of Jon Snow's gloriously delicious arse, not because of all the sex, even though we all know I like talking a bit about that, not because of all the violence. So I'm going to go into that, and also what it was like being a brand ambassador. Actually, should I just show you like a montage of some of the stuff I got to do? Yeah, let's go for that, because then I can eat some pasta and cut out the chewing noises. But like filming locations, making the food from the show, visiting Winterfell. Oh my god, if you're a fellow fangirl, just feel this with me, please.
You wish you were Jon Snow?
I do.
You do?
And I wish you had red.
Game of Thrones, we're on off the bus, off the bus. To sit and chat with some of the actors. I have the fuller interviews over on my Twitter if you want to go over and watch there. Brienne, would you? Would he?
No.
Has he never considered it?
I don't think so. I don't think the Amazonian woman is his type.
Yeah, she'd bait him around, wouldn't she?
I think he'd have trouble.
Yeah, I don't think Bran's priorities are necessarily pulling right now.
Getting that V or the D, we don't know.
Well, yeah, who
Could
knows?
be.
Or the tree, I think, is actually what Bran is into.
I don't think the Night King's on Tinder.
No.
He's too busy wanted to kill everybody in Westeros.
Imagine just swiping Night King. I could have asked them anything, and I talked to them about dating and Tinder and sex, because that's me. So I'm sure we all know Game of Thrones is an American fantasy series. It's an adaptation of the Song of Ice and Fire books by George R.R. Martin, which I've featured in videos before. And it has several different plot lines and a huge ensemble cast, but there's like a handful of main story arcs in the show. I don't necessarily want to or need to talk to you about the incredible writing, skilled acting, the unpredictable storylines, the scope of the show, the fucking soundtrack, which is one of my all-time favourites, and you guys know how much I adore film soundtrack and classical music and stuff. I often listen to a lot of the songs from Game of Thrones through on Spotify before I go to bed. Then there's the production values and the political drama, which I feel like, I don't know, that level of escapism is just something that I value a lot in my life. Like I do like keeping up with what's going on in the world, but I hate the news, and I'm one of those people who always grew up with their head in a book, like fantasy fiction stuff, because I feel like I can make more sense of what's going on around me and the current climate of where the world's at when I read. And with Game of Thrones, there's just so many parallels drawn between you know, you're reading about this world where dragons exist and all that stuff, but I do consider it much more a drama show than a fantasy show. And yeah, what I want to mainly talk about here is the complex characters and the moral ambiguity after some pasta. That blurred line between good and bad. I feel like that's something that so many of us connect to. each character in Game of Thrones, like the show and the plot and stuff, gives us so much reason to care about them, and that's so hard in filmmaking and storytelling, to actually make the audience give a shit about the characters and where they're going, to become actually emotionally invested. It's a challenge, and I think the fact that so many of the characters, well, basically all of the characters, like there's no purely good and evil characters. You see this kind of character development where it explores the dark and light inside all of us. You know, I have some really dark thoughts sometimes. I've talked to some of my friends about these things, like very few people actually I can really open up to about some of the stuff that runs through my head sometimes. And I've every time I tell someone, they tell me that they think certain things or do certain things as well. And you know, these are really good people. Those of you who already finished my book probably know this, but I definitely considered myself to be a little bitch at certain times in my life. I was a horrible person. I was not someone who I would want to be friends with. I think I'm a good person now. I fall short in a lot of areas. You know, I'm very flawed, and I appreciate the fact that the show presents me with these people who are flawed and complex and multi-layered and multifaceted, and it makes me examine myself, makes me very reflective. Even though it's just a show, it has that impact. And caring so much about the characters makes me so, like, when certain characters died in Game of Thrones over the years, I literally bawled like I'd lost a family member. No spoilers or anything, but I think we all know the episode near the end of season 3. I didn't anticipate anything that was going to happen there, and I howled and screamed, and I held on to my ex-boyfriend, crying, sobbing into him, and I was really upset for days. Like, my entire mood was brought down, and I felt a loss, like an actual loss, kind of similar to what I'd feel like if a pet was put down or something. That's how connected I feel to those characters, because it's just masterful show. Yeah, through the plots we see various characters' motivations, and that's what draws me in. And for me anyway, in a story, when there isn't like relatable, well-crafted characters and character building, the story falls apart for me. Storytelling is important to me, and as an adult, it's so rare that I get caught up in anything like the way I did when I was a kid. Because do you guys remember, Harry Potter fans, remember when we were younger and just like, you know, queuing up at midnight for a book, the dedication of it, and like literally getting dressed up in all of the clothes, and you know, buying all the merch and rewatching the films over and over again. That was because of the characters. We cared about the characters in it, and that magic and that sense of being caught up in something like that, whole-minded, like every part of me, doesn't happen to me very much as an adult, and it's kind of shit. And this brings me back to that feeling I got when I was quite little. So in a way, it does give me nostalgia. When a story can even provide you with the villains that you love to hate, so like you do kind of love them, that's when I know I'm just hooked. And getting to be an official Game of Thrones ambassador, guys, was just insane. Like, it's not finished yet either. I know we're doing something really fun in December. And you know, the reason they approached me was just to let you guys know that it's available for digital download now, season 7. And I was like, yes, please. It really pisses me off that people stream and like illegally download shows like this, where so much time and effort and passion and money and energy and all of that stuff has gone into it, for people to just be like, oh, whatever. No, bitch, no. We all probably know I'm really big on the law of attraction, and if you didn't know that, now you do. But yeah, I feel like I've been putting out there since I started YouTube how much I love Game of Thrones, and then all of this has just come to me. I just like log into my email, it's like, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Like, that's just what my life has turned into. Magic is real. And you know, of course, a lot of people don't like the show because they think it's too graphic, like too much sex, too much violence and stuff. But I love all that. I find it very realistic. Like, the sex isn't kind of cheesy porn sex. It's like, it feels quite real, and you know, obviously it's an over 18s show and it deals with stuff like incest and all sorts of things, but again, you have to take a look at the context, look at when it's set, the world that the author built, where all these characters are living and where they occupy. Westeros and the Seven Kingdoms, it's a big shitstorm, and it's a series I tell everyone to watch. I am big into TV shows, and I would put this up there with Sopranos, because Sopranos would probably be my ultimate favourite, but Game of Thrones is like tying with Sopranos, honestly. Yeah, I need to finish this pasta. I didn't want to chew too much. But you guys listen, look at that hair. Look at that hair! Thank you for watching, and if you liked this quality content, give it a big thumbs up because that really helps out my channel. Subscribe, leave a comment with what you think of Game of Thrones, and I will go and eat this, and I'll see you soon. Bye!